How do you deal with disappointment and train your children to deal with disappointment?
Welcome to Parenting Matters Now, a source of parenting advice a few minutes at a time.
Hi, this is Dr. Roger Smith of the Parenting Matters Now. We all face disappointment in life. Children at different stages have more challenges in dealing with the disappointment. But we as parents have the privilege of training our children how to manage this overwhelming feeling of disappointment, defeat, loss, grief. It is a grief process. I want to divide this into two different times or two different pieces to this because if we try to deal with this in one piece, we will discourage our children further. There's the cognitive side of the disappointment, and then there's the emotional side of disappointment. And so it's very important whenever a child is disappointed, or even when we are disappointed, that we recognize that there's an emotional, a guttural response to the loss, the grief. Dealing with that emotion or allowing that emotion to actually have expression is perfectly healthy, fine, and recommended. But that emotional response really can be under control and should be. And so help your children to know that it's okay to cry, to be sad, but to not try to punish other people around by wailing and making lots of making a scene, so to speak. We call it learning to manage that emotion. So, what is our response whenever they are disappointed with tears and sadness? Oftentimes, we try to respond to the emotional side with the cognitive words. It's going to be okay. If you see the whole picture, we try to explain it with words and logic in our minds, our thinking. But what they need from us as a parent is they need comfort. And so sometimes their disappointment is that they are mad, they're frustrated, they have this sense of loss, and sometimes they need consoling. And be very sensitive to the fact that the earlier you console, the better it is for both you and them. And so I'm not talking about a child that's in a rage and wanting to blame you and attack you. But even in that, there is a sense that they're not able to manage their emotion. And so therefore they turn it to blame. So look for opportunities whenever there's low levels of emotion to begin to build that sense, that relationship, or that responsiveness to comfort them in their loss. If we wait until it's an extreme amount of emotion, an extreme response, then we're going to be less effective. We will be frustrated. And in fact, sometimes you get hurt in their emotional response. They may flail and strike out or bite or any number of things. But when we begin to work on comfort in those early stages, then as the emotion decreases, we enter into that second part, and that's the cognitive or the thinking, the belief system that all will be well, that I am on your side, and that I am not your enemy. That person that disappointed you is not your enemy. They are not all bad. Trying to communicate those cognitive or belief system messages while the emotion is high is rather a futile attempt. Comfort first, then correct, then guide, then say, okay, in this situation, this is what happened. Is there something that you could do that would prevent this loss the next time? Is there some different response that you would like to have? The cognitive or the training with the thoughts comes after the child's emotion has been decreased or and consoled or comforted to a degree that now they're able to engage the mind. When the emotion is high, thinking is low. And I always say when emotion is high, listening is low, thinking is low, the emotion is taken over. So divide it into the recognize when you can communicate and when you need to console. That is how you train managing disappointment with your children. And sometimes we have to do the same thing for ourselves just to know that sometimes our emotion has to kind of run its course. And then we can ask ourselves those questions. What would you do differently? How could you have managed this in a better way? What could, all those questions of for the future response, we deal with that when our emotion is consoled. Do the same for your children. It's Dr. Roger Smith with Parenting Matters Now.
Subscribe to Parenting Matters Now for more advice, or go to rogersmithmd.com to search for more topics. See you next time.